First, a bit of housekeeping. Male and female toilets over there, exits there, or over the balcony. In case of an emergency, run like that. First, we want to thank Pete for making the Skyliner available to us. He does it for all freedom-related groups. So you're a legend, Pete. Thanks for that. I have to be said, John and Lee for supporting Monica, because family is important. If you've got them in your corner, there's nothing you can't do. And of course, Lisa bending over backwards to make sure she could pull it all together, and Wayne and Pauline for having her back as well. So thank you guys. And all you, of course, for turning up, because without you, it would look pretty stupid, wouldn't it? I was standing here doing myself. Okay, we're all here, of course, for Monica Smit, the founder of Reignite Democracy Australia, FDA. Come to prominence 2020 when she founded that, and of course lawfare was engaged against her. Had 3 court cases. She will tell you more about it, of course, and tell you her journey. Countless media, of course, interviewed her as well. It's a fascinating story and shows grit and determination, and something that's badly needed amongst all of us. Because the grip is tightening, it's not letting go, and they have an end game. We have to, well, they did say, who remembers the saying, the New World Order would be naked running to the finish line. Well, she's stark as at the moment. You can see it for what exactly it is, and it's time we get it off at the path and record control. MonicaSmith.com, go there when you can. There's a whole lot of products you can see down here. Go have a look through. Now, when I was looking through your website, I noticed you had hair prevention loss. If only you had gone through the crap earlier and got here earlier. Could have saved it. But no.
It's too late.
It's too late. Much too late. Okay, this is of course the Waipu leg of the Monica Smit tour around the nation, brought to you by New Zealand Law. Best policies in the business, I must say. I read every single one of them. And we've got Pete, one of the board members, of course, Kiwi here, who's happily doing the filming, and Lisa. So thank you guys for turning up and giving us your stamp of approval. Policies are up there, go and check them out. And hopefully, without further ado, we'll just bring the lady up herself, because no one likes someone who introduces someone and they just rant for ages. So,
I wasn't ready for that.
Got another joke?
Another joke? Okay, hey, I can just... No problem at all. I can go on one of my epic rants. No, you've got to have to wait, because Council Media's show will hopefully be out tonight. We filmed it between 11 and 1 this morning. Got to be at 5, up at 8. Out west, and then up here. I'm just tired as hell. But we're still doing it. So everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Monica Smit.
Hey everybody. So I'm tired too. Welcome to the club. But it's okay. I can usually turn it on. But you know, if you find something just moderately funny, you could just laugh more for me. Okay? So help me out a little bit. So this is event number 27, so, you know, there's been a lot, and I started all the way down in Invercargill, and I've got 2 more events to go, so this is kind of the tail end of the tour, and it's been great. The one thing I've noticed about New Zealand, though, is that global warming is not here. No.
We've got geoengineering and stuff.
Yeah. So I've been pretty disappointed about the summer, but that's the only thing that's really let me down. Otherwise, you know, people wonder why am I here? Why am I making this effort? Well, New Zealand and Australia are really similar. We are cousins. I think it's safer to say than brother and sister, because then we'll fight about who's who. But you know, we go through very similar things at different times, and if something's happening to us, it's probably going to happen to you sooner or later. And for sure, this networking that I'm able to do is going to benefit both of us in some capacity. I just don't know yet. But you've got to put yourself out there before you get anything back in return. So I'm willing to put in the work. You know, during COVID, we weren't networked with each other because we were actually so busy fighting our own country's problems that I had no idea what was happening here. I didn't have the time for it. And you guys didn't know what was going on in Australia. But next time there's a global problem, whatever it looks like, we're going to be able to help each other out with ideas. You know, if someone in Australia puts in hundreds of hours into a great idea, it should be in here too. All you need to do is adapt it a little bit, and we can save each other some time. You know, so that's why I like networking with people. But also, I've done like 175 events just like this, okay, in totally different rooms all over Australia, Europe, and now New Zealand. And there's something very unique about having small, intimate events. It is not the same as having 1,000 people in an auditorium. That's fun too, don't get me wrong, but you can't get to know people. You know, I'm staying at Lisa's house with her family. We had family dinner tonight. You can't get that any other way but spending the time. And because I've been able to meet people intimately like this, it really inspires me to stay positive and to be encouraged for whatever I do in the future. And as I go around New Zealand, people say things that inspire me and change my life. So no pressure, but you know, someone here better make this trip worth it, you know. You just never know what you're gonna learn. And I believe that I know that we don't like the word expert, but hear me out. I think I am an expert on the intimate characteristics of the freedom family, which is what I call the freedom movement. So when I make generalizations about the freedom family, it's because I've done so many of these events, and added together, I've probably been in rooms with 7,800 people just like this. So if anybody knows it, it's me. I don't know anyone else that has parents that are going to follow them around the world, helping them out and stuff like that. So not many people have the ability to spend the time that I do. And in return for you inspiring me, hopefully I can inspire you somehow. And if I don't, you can tell me that I failed miserably, but we'll see. Now, events like this seem mundane sometimes, and sometimes you can't be bothered coming because you think, well, what are they going to say that's new? And I understand that, but actually these groups are, in my opinion, the most important thing right now. They might seem like a waste of time sometimes, but when stuff hits the fan again, which it will, the fact that you kept these groups going is going to be the single most important thing. Because we didn't have these groups before COVID. We had to run around finding each other, didn't we? But we have them now. So cherish them. And the people that don't have time to come to these events because they're busy with life again, you know, they're still awake. They don't go back to sleep. And when stuff hits the fan again, they're going to be really grateful that you kept going. And the energy that you've spent to keep these groups together is going to be worth it, because when stuff does hit the fan again, these people that have been living their lives and forgetting about freedom stuff are going to have new energy to fight back. And you can just help to sort of mentor them, okay? So, and I also believe that when you come to an event like this, it's kind of like a protest against globalism, because when you're in the same room with people who think like you, it does empower you. You don't really know how much, but it does. So if it gets you out of the room to think that you're protesting globalism, then just use that trick, because I know we all like protesting. It's kind of a fun thing that we all did together, right? Now, another thing about communities that we have now is I've noticed with freedom people is that we tend to not have the mundane conversations about what do you do for work, what are your hobbies, what do your kids or grandkids do for work. We go straight into the really heavy politics, you know, like chemtrails and is Taylor Swift a man, or, you know, whatever. Like, we like to talk about those types of things, and we miss opportunities to help each other out economically. So if someone in this room is a mechanic or has a son who's a mechanic, for example, everyone in this room should take their car to that mechanic, unless they're a bad one, obviously. But you get my point. So if you have an opportunity to speak to people, ask them how you can help each other out on a practical sense. Then you can pay with cash, obviously, so you can diligently put it into the bank and pay taxes on it, you know. That's a joke. Anyway, use cash is my point. Now, there might be some people in this room that maybe you're new to this family. Maybe you've woken up in the last 6 months. Maybe you've never been to an event like this before. I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up. Maybe you've had 5 vaccines. I don't know. And we don't care. We're just so glad that you're here. All I ask is that you get more connected than you were before you came into this room. So you know who the people are that are running this, you can go and talk to them, okay? Make sure you're on the Telegram group or on the Signal group or something like that. And also, before I get into my talk, which you think I probably already have, but I haven't, is if you don't need your phone, can you turn it off? Just because some people suffer from radiation issues, so just turn it off, there's no harm in that. Make sure mum and dad have your phones off, because last night it was their phones that went off. Why do you keep putting your hand up?
Because it's really loud. Is anyone else feeling
Oh,
it?
thanks for saying something. It's too loud. Maybe I don't need it.
You don't.
I think I would prefer. Are you sure? Wait. Are you sure I need it? Because I can yell like this. Well, can someone turn it down? Thanks for saying that, Mum. Oh, sorry, I wasn't testing it. Go down, 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 down. Is that better? Because I do yell. Yeah, that's good. That sounds good to me, but I do project. Yes. Oh, I can't sing. And I'm not going to show you. Yeah, well, yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Everyone? Okay, cool. That was perfect timing because, yeah. So, my talk is sectioned into 3 main sections. Firstly, I'm going to tell you who I am because some of you probably don't even know my story and you're here anyway, which is thanks for coming. I'm glad that you used me as a conduit to catch up with your friends. A lot of people just come because they haven't seen their friends, and I'm fine with that. I really don't care. Anyway, the second part is I'm going to tell you my opinion on where we should be spending our energy now and how we can prepare for whatever's coming next. And thirdly, I'm going to give you some generalizations of where the Freedom family is at the moment, and hopefully leave you feeling very excited about whatever's next. Anyway, so how many of you think you know my whole story? My dad. Knows my whole story. Yeah, he knows way too much. Anyway, that's good because I love telling my story to new people. In Australia, I have to dig pretty deep to make it interesting. So with you guys, I can just tell you the stuff and it will be good enough. So, okay, so I know I said my talk is really positive. And by the way, I don't think I said why I'm really positive, because you'll notice in my talk I'm weirdly positive for someone who's been through what I've been through. And I honestly 100% believe it's because I've been in so many rooms like this. Every time I see you guys, I get to share this energy with you. And I don't know what it does to me, but I just am not scared of anything. And so I'm trying to pass that on to you guys. Anyway, so I have to start somewhere negative though, because many great stories start there. Okay, so you remember March 2020, that's when everything started heating up. It was all over the media that there was this really bad pandemic, for example. And no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Mum's signaling me more things. Anyway, so the pandemic came up, but you know, we've seen pandemics before, you know, like they talked about it on the media and then it disappears. And so we didn't really know that it was going to become what it became. 2 years of insanity and then followed by mandated vaccines and things like that. So at the beginning, people like us were kind of just waiting to see what happened. Now, I wasn't actually scared of the virus because I was brought up on alternative medicine and I was young and healthy. So I wasn't scared of the virus, but I wasn't going to start protesting straight away because I didn't know what was going to happen. So 2 weeks to flatten the curve started and we were like, okay, this is weird, all right. But, you know, didn't know what we were going to do yet. And also people like us, generally speaking, we actually were law-abiding citizens before COVID. Yeah, and they created monsters, didn't they? We were just living our lives. We were looking after our kids, having a good life, being a good citizen, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, you know what I mean? And then COVID happened, and after about a month and a half, we were all kind of like, what the heck is going on? This doesn't feel right. And we were forced to rethink maybe everything that we had thought about life in a way. But at this point, we weren't quite sure how crazy it was going to get, so we waited a bit longer. It was around August 2020, about 4 months after in and out of lockdowns and so forth, that people who were going to easily wake up were absolutely awake at this point. Now, it's important that you know, I was living in Victoria, okay, Australia, during all of this, all the lockdowns, and my Jacinta Ardern was Daniel Andrews, okay? So it's important you know that. Now, New Zealand, I know you went through a hard time, and I have sympathy for you, but if there was a competition, Victoria won, okay? We had the worst lockdowns in the world. So, Anyway, the reward is we have lots of freedom groups. Anyway, so around August, it was so crazy that I knew that people were looking for each other, but they didn't know where to look. Everything was not making sense. No one was dying of COVID. And then I did a test with myself, because people like us, New Zealand and Australia, we share this beautiful culture, which is that we used to, at least, see the best in people. We used to always think that people had the right intentions. I did anyway. And I still mostly do, but it's wearing a bit thinner now, as you know. But I did a test and I thought, what if Daniel Andrews is actually trying to protect me? What if Jacinta Ardern actually cares about your health, right? Just for argument's sake, let's play devil's advocate. Anyway, that test lasted about 30 seconds. Because I couldn't see it. But also, in Victoria at the time, the brothels were open, but the churches were closed. Like, gosh, the bottle shops were closed, but the little coffee van outside the bottle shops were open, and the little coffee van was closed outside. The Anzac Day parade was cancelled, but the football stadium was full of people on the same day. So people like us, we couldn't play that game anymore. We knew this was dodgy as, right? So that's when I started Reignite Democracy Australia, which is basically like a version of VFF, but in Australia. And it was the timing that really made it successful, okay? Almost anybody could have done something and it would have worked, because people were desperate to know that they weren't crazy. They knew they weren't crazy, but they just needed a community to reinforce that they weren't crazy, because really we were being told we were killing grandma, as you know. And we really, really knew that we weren't trying to do that. But anyway, the point is, my first idea was I did a live stream protest, because I wasn't yet a full-blown rebel and I didn't want to get people in trouble. So I thought of a way for us to protest without getting arrested and in trouble. Anyway, I told the audience, it was a Facebook live stream, right? I told the audience, write your name, your electorate, like where you live, and what message you want to tell the government, and I will put it into like a really nice PDF pie graph diagram or something like that, and I'll send it to all the members of Parliament in Victoria. Because, we couldn't protest legally, so I thought I was doing the members of Parliament a favour, because I thought that they actually cared what we thought, I was really naive. Anyway, so I did this live stream and it got 4,000 comments, and I didn't even know how to turn those comments into a pie graph. But when you're doing the right thing, things just work out, and someone came out of nowhere and helped me do it. And within a few days, I had this beautiful pie graph diagram of 4,000 citizens' thoughts into nice little categories. And I sent it to all the members of Parliament. And again, being so naive, I knew that sort of data is really powerful. It's rich. Like, if you paid a data company to do that, it'd cost you a lot of money. But I did it for free, and I thought that the members of Parliament would, give me a medal, a Citizen of the Year award or something, that's just what I thought. But no, they hated me straight away. And I didn't really know why, but I didn't have too much time to think about it because it was busy. So anyway, after that, someone messaged me on Facebook, and they said, oh, I've got a bus company, and obviously we're slow now because of COVID, and I've got a bus that I decided to put funny pictures of Daniel Andrews on, but I don't know what to do with the bus. And I said, I can help you. So this bus was a big passenger bus, right? And it had, on each side, it had a picture of Daniel Andrews' ugly face. And he has big ears naturally, but on the bus he had bigger ears, just for fun. And he had his fingers in his ears like this. He wasn't listening to the people, so it was a really good imagery. And the words were, it was hashtag Sack Dan Andrews, which ended up being very popular over the next couple of years. Anyway, and on the bus there was some funny imagery of him working with China and the Belt and Road and things like this. So this was quite an ordeal driving through Victoria. Anyway, I was a citizen journalist, which I had been a citizen journalist before COVID, thank goodness, obviously in preparation for this. I was in Thailand doing documentaries on the sex trade and the sex trafficking and stuff. So my eyes were open, which was really good for this. Anyway, so we were fully in lockdowns, couldn't leave our houses, but I was a journalist and I decided that the bus was my taxi and there was nothing they could do about it. So I drove around Melbourne with this bus, and it was getting a lot of attention. You know, there was people stopping and taking selfies with it and laughing, and you know, it was glorious for about 3 hours, and then and then the police started following us and setting up roadblocks, drug and alcohol testing the driver more than once a day just to intimidate him, asking me who I was 3 times a day, even though they knew who I was. And you know, it was at this point, I didn't know then, but now I realise that that's when Daniel Andrews knew exactly who I was. Because narcissists do not like being mocked. In fact, it takes away the fear, so they hate it a lot. So anyway, the bus lasted 4 days on the road. It was a lot of fun. But you know, the funniest part for me was that they were trying to take attention away from the bus. But then when you send 3 police cars with their sirens on to follow a bus, just gives more attention to it. Anyway, they're not very smart people. They give off the illusion of being smart, but they're really stupid. Anyway, so after 4 days, there was this big protest planned, and actually it was the best protest I think I've ever been to, because it was the first one where Victorians were like sick of it now, and we now had the guts to leave our house and do whatever we wanted. But also, there was no counter-protesters during COVID because they were all scared of the virus, right? So there was no division on the streets. The only division was coming from the police. So actually, there were glorious days. Anyway, I knew that I wanted to bring the bus to the protest, and I knew that the police would set up a roadblock. So I decided to get there at 3:30 in the morning, park the bus exactly where I wanted before anybody turned up. So that was great. So the bus was there for about 10 hours, it did its job, and they drove buses next to it to try to stop people from seeing the imagery and stuff like that. But they couldn't get rid of the bus because it was parked legally. So they sent a bad expert to try to find something wrong with the bus so that they could put a pink sticker on it. And it took him an hour with a little camera going under the bus and over the bus and looking inside everything. And then they found some really dangerous things. 2 of the seatbelts had a bit of material fraying off of them. Very dangerous stuff. So the bus got a pink sticker and it was sent away. Now 2 days later, there was another protest planned because, well, you know, we had nothing else to do and we had our guts now. Anyway, that first one where the bus was at, like I said, it was the first successful, peaceful, beautiful protest that Victoria ever had. And so the police wanted to send a message that we can't do that anymore, you know. So they had a whole new operation put in place, which I've read the documents and they're quite hilarious. But anyway, so this park was swarmed with police. There was about 500 of them with horses and motorbikes and bikes and paddy wagons, whole administration setups for fine writing and things like that. And only 15 protesters managed to get through the barriers. So really, it was like a police protest, really. Anyway, embarrassing though, super embarrassing for them. So I went there, I had my work permit, which was a piece of paper saying I was allowed to leave the house, which I'm embarrassed that I had now, but back then, you know, we were figuring out where we were with everything. Anyway, I also had a paid film guy with me on the books, a professional film guy, videographer. And over there was other journalists and they were fine, of course. And but the police told me that I had to go home. And I said, well, no, I've got my work permit, I've got my camera guy, I'm not going home. And they said, doesn't matter, you've got to go home. And I said, no. So they arrested me and they put me in handcuffs for about 15 to 20 minutes for no reason. And then they took off the handcuffs and then they told me to go home again. I said no again, obviously, and I got arrested again. And then the second time I got put in a paddy wagon for 45 minutes for no reason. The paddy wagon didn't move, I didn't get charged or anything. But I was in the back of that paddy wagon handcuffed as well. And you know, I'm a strong chick, but I was pretty traumatized by that. I've never been in trouble with the police before in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm a journalist in the back of a paddy wagon. And that was pretty shocking. It wasn't about my safety. Like, I knew I was fine. I had my parents outside. I had my boyfriend there. There was all these cameras outside. I knew I was going to be safe. But if they're going to do that to me in front of all these cameras and my family, what are they doing to people where there's no cameras, where there's no one to protect them? That's what scared the bejesus out of me. And I was just so shocked at, if they're going to do this to me, where else is this going? In Australia, of all places, you know? Anyway, so we're now at the start of September, and I woke up after that day, and you've got the live stream protest, the bus and then getting arrested 3 times in one day as a journalist in Victoria. That was all in 2.5 weeks, guys, okay? It was very heavy, very quickly. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I woke up the day after those arrests and I realised that I had become the biggest face against the lockdowns in the most lockdown place in the world. Because before I started, I didn't know Victoria was going to be special. It was those 2.5 weeks that really told us that we were going to be different to everyone else. New South Wales was different, South Australia was different, Tasmania was different, everywhere else was different, but Victoria. So, I didn't have a business plan, I didn't have a board of directors, I definitely had no idea what I was doing, and I barely did the whole time. But anyway, I figured it out. I stumbled along for the next year and I managed to stay out of trouble, and we had 7 staff and we had 110 community groups and like 120,000 people on the email database, and we just sent people ideas. And I would say the biggest thing that we did is helped people find loopholes, because I saw that time as a big chess game, and like the authorities would make a move and we needed to make a move, and vice versa, and there was always a way around everything. You just had to be creative. And finding community was the other thing that we did, which is the most important thing. So loopholes in community, and you were fine. Anyway, so the way I stayed out of trouble is that I was very clever with my words, because then they couldn't get me. So for example, I would promote a poster for a protest, and there was many, and I would say, I am going to report on this protest, with the poster right there. So I wasn't telling people to go, I was just telling them that I was going. But clearly I was just telling them about it, and the police knew and I knew what I was doing, but they couldn't do anything about it. And you know how there's a bit of a game that you play for a certain period of time? Well, anyway, something happened and I just stopped playing the game, and that's when it all came crashing down, or crashing up, you'll find out soon. But anyway, there was an emergency lockdown, conveniently, in August 2021, just weeks before the vaccine mandates, so it's obviously not on purpose, it is on purpose. Now, August 2021, if you can bring yourself back there for a second, was probably the worst time for all of us, because that was when mandates were about to come in. So the fear had to be ramped up, the lockdowns were ramped up, and everything was ramped up to try to coerce people to get vaccinated. And again, Victoria won that prize as well, because literally every Tom, Dick and Harry had to be vaccinated. So if your kids wanted to go play basketball, the parents had to be vaccinated, even if they were just dropping them off. Like, it was just insanity. Anyway, so it was at that time that we had the emergency lockdown, and it was for 7 days. And then after the 7 days, Daniel Andrews said that he was going to extend the lockdown. And that was it for me. I don't know why. Lots of other worse things had happened, but for some reason, that was my line in the sand, and I had had enough. So I promoted a protest, and this time I said, I am going, and so should you. And it was the so should you that got me in trouble. Now, around that time, being the worst time of the entire pushback and the time when the mandates were coming, obviously it was also the time that the government wanted to shut people like me up the most. So there were people online, like me, who were getting arrested and charged with something called incitement. And I'll explain what that is in a second. And what I noticed is that after I would see the charge and I would see the arrest, I would see posts about that, but then they would disappear from the internet. Now, they didn't die, okay? They just stopped posting online, because obviously they were getting gagged, or they were getting bail conditions that told them they had to shut up, or they were scared or threatened. I don't know exactly, but I just saw people disappearing. And so I knew that it was the possibility that I would get charged with incitement. That was a realistic possibility at that time. And so I had a dream around this time, and in the dream, I got arrested for incitement, given ridiculous bail conditions, didn't sign them, went to prison. And it was so vivid in the dream that when I woke up, I called my boyfriend and told him about it, and I said, just so you know, if I get charged with incitement, because other people were, I said, if those bail conditions are ridiculous, which I think they will be, I'm not going to sign them. And he said, but then you'll go to prison. And I was like, well, I don't know. I just know I'm not going to sign them. And then 2 days after the dream, I got arrested for incitement, given bad bail conditions, didn't sign them, and went to prison. So the dream was actually like a precursor, not a warning, I would say a preparation, actually. And the dream was so real to me that when I woke up, I don't know how I felt this, but I remember feeling good. I remember feeling like it was worth it, and I actually remember feeling proud of myself for the decision I had made. That's why I woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sign them, not that I knew that I was actually coming. And so when it happened, I wasn't even scared, I wasn't shocked, I wasn't surprised. I had already lived it once in my dream, and now I felt like I was living in another dream almost. So I was like in the corner of the room looking down on myself, like it wasn't even happening. I didn't cry, I didn't get angry, nothing. I was just completely fine. And it's because I knew what was going to happen. And not only did I have the dream, but I had the blessing of knowing that it was going to be worth it. God told me in that dream that whatever you do is going to be worth it and you're going to be fine. So it wasn't a hard decision. In fact, it was my job. It was my role. I had been prepared for it, yeah? Now, I'll get back to that, but if you don't know what incitement is, it's a criminal charge, and the criminal punishment should match the crime that you incite someone to do. So for example, if I encourage someone to do an armed robbery, then I would get charged with inciting someone to do an armed robbery, okay? But in this case, they found a loophole, the chessboard, they found a loophole to charge people for inciting others to break COVID restrictions, which is like not wearing a mask or something like that. So it's kind of like if I go for a drive with you to the shops and I tell you to park in the disabled spot and you get a parking fine, I would get a criminal charge for that. That's how ridiculous it is, yeah? But anyway, we were all trying to figure things out, and they won that piece move. Anyway, none of the incitement charges were ever designed to go to trial. It was all about that particular time in our pushback and shutting people up. Now, just to reiterate, Reignite Democracy Australia, after a year of operation, we were absolutely the biggest voice against the government on all of it. I mean, just before I got arrested, I was driving around in digital buses telling people not to get vaccinated, and the government was bringing in coercive vaccines. So they wanted to get rid of me. And I get why they did that. Now, I had and I will tell you what the bail conditions were, of course. I had 7 staff at the time, I had a big database and a lot of community groups. And, I couldn't shut up at that point in time. I would have never been able to live that down. So the 2 bail conditions, this is, you must be wondering what I was willing to go to prison for. So there was 15 bail conditions, but I'll just tell you 2 of them. And they were all bad, excuse me. Anyway, so I was not allowed to talk about COVID anywhere at the dinner table, in my car, alone. I could not talk about COVID restrictions. I couldn't talk about masks, vaccines, anything, right? But the worst part is that I had to delete everything on my website that talked about COVID or COVID restrictions, which was, the entire website, because it was born because of the lockdowns. So those 7 staff would have lost their jobs and they would have been mandated in any other job that they went for. Yeah, those 120,000 email subscribers would have stopped getting emails right in that critical moment. So I couldn't sign those bail conditions. Now what you could have done, you could sign the bail conditions, go home and then appeal them, but that's at least a month or 2 of silence, right? And that's when the critical time was happening. So when I saw the bail conditions, I was not surprised again, and I said to my lawyer, I'm not signing those. And he said, but you'll go to prison. And I was like, yeah, I know it's gonna happen, it's fine. And he's like, you're crazy. And I was like, yeah, a little bit. Anyway, so before I knew it, I found myself in prison. So I went to prison for not signing the bail conditions, okay? I was never convicted of that, okay? So I went into solitary confinement for 22 days. I didn't go outside once, didn't get sunshine once, because I was so dangerous, apparently. Now, obviously prison wasn't fun, like it wasn't on my bucket list of things to do in my life, but I'm honestly telling you the truth, that I was working so hard on the outside that it was actually really relaxing. Yeah, I could use another stint in jail after this tour, actually. Like, imagine with your lives right now, 22 days with no interruptions, in a room alone, no social media, no responsibilities. All I had to do was stay positive. And I am freakishly good at that. So we all have downfalls in our personalities, right? But I'm really good at finding silver linings. That's one of my biggest biggest strengths. So that's why I was the right person for this job. But also, I was laying there when I first got in, and obviously, even though I saw it in my dream, I was still shocked. I still thought some hero lawyer would come and save me or something, which obviously doesn't exist. But anyway, I was there and I was looking around the room, and obviously there's like suicide notes etched in the grey paint, and it's pretty depressing. And I'd just been strip searched, which is not a fun experience for someone who's innocent, especially. And I started laughing because it was so funny to me that they tried to shut me up and they did the exact opposite times 1,000, right? They made a martyr out of me, and they chose the wrong person because I have no prior history. I look pretty innocent, but if you've read my book, I'm not. But if you judge a book by its cover, I look pretty innocent, and they've just locked me up for bail conditions, right? And I just laughed my head off, and trust me, there was pretty crazy girls in the other cells, so I did not sound any crazier than them. A lot less crazy, actually. And also, I had started writing the book, my book before prison, and I was also laughing at the fact that the book just got way better, way more interesting. I knew exactly where the first chapter was going to start now. I was living the first chapter of my book. And the other thing is I was so busy on the outside, living in the most lockdown place in the world, running the biggest voice against the lockdowns in the world, that I could never prioritise finish writing my book. And then those idiots put me in solitary confinement for 22 days with nothing to do but finish writing my book. So actually the book is because of them. And I probably never would have finished it because it would have been boring without prison. And so I decided to give them a little compliment at the front page of my book. I said, compliments to Victoria Police and Daniel Andrews for the great story. You've got to make fun of things, that's the best way to get through the fear, and that's what I'm really good at. Now, you wouldn't know this about me, but I was in a very unique position to do what I did. I'm not braver than you, and I'm not more special than you. I just am really good at marketing myself, and I keep talking about my story every single day for 6 weeks, so everybody knows about it. But many people have done very courageous things, we just don't know about it, right? Now, I also was the right person for the job, and I'll tell you why. Is because I'm crazy, but my family is just as crazy, okay? I've never been vaccinated in my life. I was born on the outside, My parents didn't let us watch any mainstream media. I hated them for it, but now it was a good thing. Thanks, Mum, Dad. Yeah. And, my whole family is like me, okay? I've got 4 older siblings, I've got 15 nieces and nephews, and I've got a big church community, and we're all awake, okay? My church community was having weddings in the forest, okay? We didn't care. Right? Because I'm Catholic, but I'm Latin Mass Catholic, so we're independent of Rome, and we have nothing to do with the government, so we can make our own decisions. Our priests were having sermons telling people not to get vaccinated, and that was my environment. Now, when I fit inside a box, I feel uncomfortable. Okay? I was born on the outside, and that's where I'm comfortable, and that's why it was very easy for me to go against the grain. But also, think about all the pain that you guys went through with your families. I was talking to people before, and they said none of their siblings are awake. They all think they're crazy, You've been uninvited to weddings, funerals, you got fired, you lost friends, you lost your sewing class club, whatever it might be. You all went through some of that pain. I didn't go through anything. Not one of those stories. I didn't lose anybody I cared for. So I was situated emotionally and physically for my job. Now, what you went through might have killed me, but what I went through might have killed you. But guess what? We're not supposed to do the same things, and it's okay. My thing just happens to be loud, but it's not any more special than anybody else's. And other people who got charged with incitement and given those bail conditions before me did not want to sign those bail conditions, but they had young children, or they had a wife that was distraught. Now, you owe your time to your family before you do to other people. So they needed to continue doing that, and I didn't have young children or a mortgage or a job or a family that cared and stuff like that. So now that you understand where I come from, it makes a little bit more sense. And my family, when my parents first called me in jail, you might have thought that they would have been like, oh, are you okay? Are you warm enough? Have you eaten enough? What's it like? Are you okay? But no, they were like, oh, you did the right thing, you stay there as long as you need to, do not sign those bail conditions. Whatever you do not sign those bail conditions. Yeah. You know, they were really proud of me, and that gave me strength. And I didn't realise that while I was in prison, things were falling apart at home because the police, they couldn't search my bedroom and office because me and my parents were living in a house barn that you weren't supposed to be living in. And the police couldn't search it because it wasn't on the same title as the actual house address. So that was pretty hilarious. But they went to council and complained that we were living there, so I lost where I was living while I was in prison. And my family hid all of that from me. They just made sure that I stayed focused on staying positive. They ran my organisation for me, didn't tell me any of the problems. And, you know, I lost phone privileges after a few days because I was like telling people what to put on social media. But anyway, the point is, if my family had called me crying and distraught, it would have been a lot harder for me to do what I did. So now you understand where I was coming from. Now, moving past that, so I got out after 22 days because we appealed the bail conditions and we won. So they took 10 of the bail conditions away, and then I was able to continue my work with the same loopholes that I was using before. So I kept driving around in the truck with the don't get vaccinated and things like that. So that was great. And but then they tried something really interesting. They got a warrant signed by a magistrate asking me, or telling me I should say, to sit in a room with a police officer and give him password access to every single app on my phone, right? Because they had taken my app into custody. Google Maps, Google Drive, Signal, Telegram, OneDrive, all my email addresses, my staff's email addresses, but most critically, the database. They wanted the entire database. 120,000 Australian political dissidents, and also many of them had home addresses because we'd sent them something. Goodness, some of your email addresses might have been on there. So, you know, that was pretty gutsy of them to ask for. Anyway, I fought it, I lost, and I was in a situation where if you don't comply with a warrant, it's another criminal offence. And if you commit a criminal offence while you're on bail for a criminal offence, it is a breach of bail. If you breach your bail, you go to prison for 3 months with no questions asked. So that was a decision that I had to make. Obviously, I was never going to give them that information because, you know, I wouldn't be here if that had happened because it would have been horrible and no one would trust me, which is fair enough. Anyway, so talking about the chess game, I thought, well, you know, I'll just say no and see what happens. And because I still had the support of my family and stuff like that. So I sent them an email and I said, I'm not giving you anything. And if you want to arrest me, that's fine. Just let me know. I'll come in. And 2 days later, they sent me an email back dropping all the charges. Yeah. So it was a chess game and that was checkmate, right? And they thought to themselves, well, you know, we'll just try and get some data from her because we're going to drop it anyway. They were always going to drop it. None of the incitement charges ever went to trial, ever, because they would have lost. And then they would have closed that loophole that they still got open, which is charging people for inciting summary offences, which is ridiculous. Other people got charged with incitement after me, and they got my amended bail conditions. So I did set a precedence with the bail conditions, but yeah, it would have been great to go to trial because it would have been so fun to watch them lose. But, you know, they were never going to give me that sort of pleasure. Now, if you think about, you know, talking about silver linings, if I wanted to continue being an activist like I am now, 6 years later, prison was the single most effective campaign I ever did. And I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was show up, you know? So it's actually the best thing that's happened for my career as an activist, if you know what I mean. So I'm actually super grateful for it. I don't think I would be here. Actually, I know I wouldn't be here without the prison story because I wouldn't have the confidence to think that I have interesting enough things to say to take up so much of your evening. And the start of my talk is about prison, but the rest has nothing to do with prison. But if I hadn't gone to prison, you wouldn't be here to listen to the rest, you know? So it was a gift. And when you see other people going through hard times, I'm sure there are many people in this room going through hard times, and then you've got like Barry Young, and you've got many other people getting prosecuted in New Zealand. The best thing you can do is pray for them if you're a praying person. But secondly, share their story if it's so crazy, because it does help to wake people up. You know, when they did what they did to me, I promise you, people got pushed over the edge of waking up because it was so ridiculous what they did. So sharing the story is the best thing you can do. And now that you've met me, I'm still risking things, so I could still get into a lot more trouble. And if I do get into trouble, you know me now, you know I'm going to be fine because I'm the right person for it, and I'll just write a second book or something, and you know, it's going to be fine, right? Now, after 5 years after COVID, anyone who got a platform during COVID has had to figure out where they can be the best use, because it's really hard to stay relevant, and then staying relevant helps you to be effective with whatever you're doing. And what I realise is that I'm really good at representing myself in court, and I really love it. So that's what I do. So I sued the government for arresting me 3 times in one day, and I represented myself. And what I do, by the way, is I get help with the paperwork and I get coaching beforehand, but I represent myself because I'm not that good at the paperwork, but I'm really good at the talking part. And that's the expensive part. So that's why, you know, it makes sense. Anyway, it was a 12-day trial, and it was 2 full-time barristers, 2 full-time solicitors, and just me on the other side. And it was quite the ordeal. And I actually won that 2 out of the 3 arrests were unlawful, which is great. And during that time, I had the second top police guy in the witness stand, and I was hammering him for questions for a day and a half. Like, that felt pretty good, you know? And the coward was happy to arrest me 3 times in one day, but he wouldn't look at me in the face in court. What a cowardly little man, you know? Anyway, that was fun for me. Super tiring. I definitely got some more wrinkles and lost some hair, but that's not the point. I loved it, right? Anyway, I won. Great. That sounds like a good thing, right? But unfortunately, they found a loophole to make me suffer anyway. But don't worry, there's a silver lining. So basically, I got offered $15,000 to not go to trial, right? They call it mediation, I call it bribe. But anyway, come see, come sa, whatever. That's why I don't have lawyers. Anyway, I said no to that because I wanted vindication. And anyway, I won, but the judge only gave me $4,000 in awards for 2 unlawful arrests, which is ridiculous. So the court system sees it as a loss because I would have had a better result and avoided court if I had taken the deal. Now, obviously, I have good arguments against that, but she awarded costs to the other side, even though I won. So I got a bill, well, I don't have the bill right now because I'm appealing it, but of $250,000 I had to pay. And that was a discount. Anyway, now that's pretty crazy. And I'll tell you what the message is with that is that if you have an amazing case and you have the guts to take the government to court and win your case, we're still going to make sure you suffer. So don't bother, you know? And so if someone at home has an amazing case, they'll say, but look what happened to Monica Smit. She won and lost anyway. She won on paper but lost in life. Anyway, the silver lining is, well, firstly, I had a news segment on like a project. It's called a current affair, mainstream media, and it was 99% positive. For the first time in my public life, they were actually truly sympathetic towards me, because that's how unfair it was. 99% positive this case was. I was watching it and I was waiting for the, like, you know, she's a conspiracy theorist. It didn't even come up. Anyway, and I am, but whatever. Anyway, so conspiracy truther, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, also a law student emailed me and told me that his law professor had brought up my case in university to showcase how unfair it was. You know, so because of how badly she treated me, I was getting into new houses, into new groups of people that never would have heard of me. And even people who hated me felt sorry for me. And that felt good. It felt like I've got a reason to appeal this. Now, the stupid judge, what she should have done is just given me 2 out of 3 arrests, given me $4,000, but then said, pay your own costs, right? I still would have been out of pocket 50 or so grand and plenty of time, right? But I would have walked away. But because of her stupid decision, I'm forced, metaphorically forced, to appeal. Because there's no way I can have people thinking, oh, look what happened to Monica Smit. I couldn't have that. So I'm appealing, and that is on March 23rd, which is coming up really soon. So because I wouldn't have appealed the 1 arrest that she said was lawful. I wouldn't have bothered. But now she's forced me to appeal. I'm like, well, I may as well appeal that arrest too. And that was the worst one. That was the one where I was in the paddy wagon for 45 minutes. So pushing up to a higher court means that you can set a higher precedence as well. So I really think it's all meant to be, and I really think I'm going to win, but you know, it's a corrupt system. The thing is if I win, I'll get some of my money back, and it'll be nice, it'll feel good. But if I lose, I am completely bankrupt, like proper, like $1 million or something. But luckily for me is I've set my life up so that I owe nothing and I am happy, but it's not because of Clash Court, okay? And I really do enjoy the whole David and Goliath thing. It gives me purpose, it really keeps me going in life. So I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, for example, I did get convicted of doing a legal fundraiser about 3 years ago. But what happened was I just didn't fill out the paperwork, okay? So it sounds a lot worse than it actually is. And when the fundraiser was started, it was my staff who did it when I was in prison. I didn't even know about it, and I was supposed to register the fundraiser. Anyway, I got fined $1,500 for conducting an illegal fundraiser, which is just a slap on the wrist. So you know what I did? Is that night, I conducted a fundraiser to pay it off. You know? You gotta make fun, because they try to be so scary, you know, and obviously I stopped it at $1,500, it was just fun, right? And then I registered the fundraiser, and they said, what is the fundraiser for? And I said, to pay off your stupid fine, right? Now, that would have made them laugh just a little bit, even if they hated me, you know what I mean? Because these bureaucracies, they're so full of it, they've got so much smoke and screens, they want you to think that they're super powerful. Now, sometimes you do get into trouble if you push too far, but sometimes, if you're annoying, or you're the squeaky wheel, or you just keep being persistent, you can get away with a lot. You know, you just have to push a little. So I recommend in your own lives to always push the boundaries just a little bit, but you should know where the boundary is. I can't tell you what that is, right? Like, for example, I had an event in an area, for example, down here, let's say I wanted to have an outdoor event at a park, and I applied to have the event there, and they rejected my application, of course, and I said, well, what happens if I just do the event anyway? And they said, well, you'll get a fine. And I said, well, how much is the fine? They said $900, and I said, great, send me your bank details. Yeah? And they never sent me a fine, okay? So you just kind of like play a bit of a bluff, and you learn a lot while you're doing it as well. Now, my next court case is, again, miracles happen when you're doing, on that other case, I actually was gonna stop activism for a little while, and then that happened, and I was forced to appeal, and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not finished with this. So I'm headed in now again. Anyway, so a miracle happened to me a few months ago, and I got a refund from the tax office out of nowhere, right? My accountants made a mistake 3.5 years ago, and if they hadn't made that mistake, then the money would have already been gone, because things were so crazy then, all the campaigns that were going on. But because I figured out the mistake now, it feels like new money almost, and I'm using that money to take them to court for the prison. And I didn't have the money for it. I really didn't. So you know you're doing the right thing when crazy stuff like that happens, right? So my next case, 22 days in solitary confinement for nothing. I mean, that's my retirement plan, guys. You know, I can be an activist forever, because it's gonna be a good case. And the best part is that when I went to prison was when Daniel Andrews called the ridiculous lockdowns that made no sense. There was only 6 PCR tests, positive PCR tests. I mean, it's really insanity, right? And because that's why I went to prison, I should be able to get Daniel Andrews on the stand, unless he fakes a stroke again, because he fakes strokes to get out of court cases. But anyway, the point is, imagine having Jacinta Ardern on the witness stand. Wouldn't that be lovely? Imagine that. Yeah. So I think I'm going to be able to do that. And you know, like I said, if you see me in trouble, you know me now, and you know I'm going to be fine. And you know the new anti-Semitism bill in Australia, the anti-free speech bill, I'm sure you've heard about it. It's the worst bill against freedom of speech in the Western world. You know, it's coming everywhere, but it is right now the worst. And again, I wasn't surprised when that went through, because I knew it would. We have a corrupt government, and to expect anything different would be insanity, because they're insane and they're corrupt and they don't care. Anyway, but there is a silver lining with that too, is that when these arrogant people go too hard, it always backfires, always. It's just, I don't know when or how long it's going to take to backfire, but I know it will. And I will tell you what my prediction is, so you can say you heard it here first, is that the two major parties worked together on this bill. For the first time, it was completely abundantly clear that they were a uni party. We knew, but it's becoming clearer and clearer every day, because they're trying to stop One Nation. You guys have heard about Pauline Hanson and One Nation, right? Whether you like her or not has nothing to do with the point of what I'm saying. Never in history has a minor party in Australia been polling higher than the other major party and only 2% away from the party that is in control. She is 2% under, okay? She is 60% of the polling in rural Australia. 60%, 60, right? Now, what I think happened is that the two major parties realised that they could use this bill to declare one nation a hate group, and then Pauline can go to prison for 15 years, and every single member can go to prison for 5. Okay? Now, they don't have enough jails for all those members, but they could pick and choose which ones they wanted to get rid of, if you know what I mean. Now, if they did that, it might trigger a revolution, and maybe that's what we need. You know? Like, I'm like, okay, try. Pauline Hanson is like a godlike figure in Australia now. Like, people want their babies to touch her. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm not on the gravy train yet, but I tell you what, I am really interested to see what happens. This is very exciting, you know. Whatever happens, it's exciting. And anyway, so I'm going to finish off this section by just reminding you, and I said it already, but you know, you can't compare yourself to other people and what they do. You know, what they do here with the party is different to what you do, you know. Now, for example, I don't want to stand on the corner of a street with a placard, but this lady over here would love to, you know. I don't really want to do letterbox drops, but you might do it every day, right? Not everyone's supposed to do the same things because not everyone has the same personality. And I shouldn't put you down for not doing what I do, and you shouldn't put me down for not doing what you do. Some people who don't have the character to go out on the street, they should be at home researching or cooking or whatever it is, or praying. I don't know. We all have a place. We just need to find that place. And don't let anyone tell you you're not doing enough, because only you know if you're not doing enough. If you've got young children, you can't go out getting arrested like me. You know what I mean? So, you know, my brother, for example, he's fully awake, but he wore a mask in public during COVID because he couldn't be bothered with the confrontation. Now, sure, I've teased him about it, but I get it. It's fine. Not everyone's going to do the same things, you know? And we need to embrace each other no matter what happens, because, you know, things are going to get heated up. And if we can start thinking now about where our best place is in the freedom movement, we're going to be steps and steps ahead. And that brings me to my point, which is my next section, which is talking about what we should be doing now. Well, it all starts off with what brings us together, what makes us freedom people. Now, it's actually a really hard question to answer. And I don't totally have the answer, but I do have something. It's hard to figure it out because we're all different religions, ages, ethnicities. And by the way, I know that these events tend to be older people, but there are a lot of young people awake. It's just, who's going to get a babysitter to come here? You know, they're going to keep that for the weddings and the parties, you know what I mean? There's tons of young awake people. They're just busy with life, okay? You guys have more time, maybe. Anyway, there isn't something really obvious that brings us together, except that we all share this particular characteristic to different degrees, different variations, but I think we all care a lot. Yeah. And we care about people we know, we care about people we don't know, we care about people that hate us and that kicked us out of shops and maybe even fired us. I mean, my mum prays for Daniel Andrews. I mean, gosh, it makes me cringe, but it's admirable, you know. Anyway, and caring is beautiful. We should obviously continue to be caring people. However, we need to recognise that sometimes it can be used against us, and sometimes it can be a weakness, in fact. And at the moment, the way that I see that it's being used against us the most is that we can be distracted really easily because we want to fix everything. And if you try to fix everything, you fix nothing. And on top of that, you burn out and you're no good for anybody, right? How many of you have seen people put all of their life into something, fail miserably, get depressed, and never want to do anything activism related again? It's because they burnt out. And there's ways that we can protect ourselves from that. At the moment, there's so many different battlefields. You know, there's chemtrails, there's fluorides, there's politics coming up, there's 1080, right? That's what it's called, right? There's so many problems, there's so many wars, there's so many this. You've got the pedophilia, you've got the Epsteins, you've got, oh my gosh, there's so many things, right? And so we get pulled in different directions. Now, there is a way that this is a system that I have been using myself for 2 years, and it has been very effective in me saying no to things that are going to waste my time and saying yes to things that are going to be worth it. So what I ask myself is these 3 questions. Will I enjoy it? Does it suit my natural skills and abilities? And will it have impact? Now, you won't always know if something will have impact. If there's a bit of trial and error, and you can fail to figure things out. I'm not saying don't try. But based on the last 6 or 7 years of activism, you should be able to have an idea of if something is going to be impactful before you start it. At least think about it so you know what the potential impact could be. Now, if you enjoy something, but it doesn't suit your skills and it has no impact, what are you doing it for? Ask yourself that question. Maybe it's for ego. Maybe it's because it makes you feel better than the next freedom person. I don't know. We've all fallen into those traps before, myself included. That's why I figured this out, right? So I'm speaking from experience. My ego comes in the way too. And if you think it doesn't, then, well, you're probably wrong. But anyway, so if you don't enjoy something, but it suits your skills and it has an impact, then suck it up and do it, please. Because we need you to, you know? If you enjoy it, but it doesn't suit your skills and it has impact, then bring someone else on board to help you with that particular thing that you're not good at. If something takes me an hour to do what takes you 10 minutes, you should be doing that thing, even if that thing makes me feel good, if you know what I mean. It's all about working smarter and not harder. Now, I tend to sometimes get trapped in campaigns that won't have any impact that make me laugh. They just make me laugh, right? Because, like, for example, when the new hate speech bills came through, I thought that we could do a campaign and clog up the reporting system with really stupid reports. Like, for example, I saw a post about pineapple on pizza and it really made me scared. So, and we could have gotten like 10,000 reports into the Australian Federal Police. And trust me, it would have been funny as, you know, but it wouldn't have achieved anything. You see, it just would have made me feel good, right? So I spent an hour on that campaign and I was like, darn it, can't do it. Got to use my own preaching, you know. And then recently I got asked to be the cover girl of a documentary about the Great Barrier Reef. That sounds really fun, right? And in the first 30 seconds I was like, wow, you know, I'll go snorkeling and I'll probably get new clothes and I'll be on the front of something, which clearly I don't mind the attention, you know. So I'm like, sounds great. And then I sat there and I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, I like the Great Barrier Reef, but it's like not really my passion. And like, it's got nothing to do with my purpose or mission in life, you know? So if I had done that thing, it would have just been for vanity. If I hadn't thought about it properly, I would have been doing it for the wrong reasons. Now, it wouldn't have been a bad thing to do, but I would have come home and I would have realized that I wasted my time. And instead, I was on a tour in Australia doing something that is definitely closer to my heart. So you get what I mean. Obviously, I didn't do that thing, or else this would be a bad story. Now, on the same tangent of, you know, how to figure out. Before I go to the next thing, I will say that if in the next couple of weeks, if you can please just brainstorm a little bit about the things you've been involved with and what worked the best and where your natural abilities were the best used. Because if we do know our place before the next big thing, we're going to be miles ahead of where we were before COVID. So just have a think about it. Now also, when we endeavour to get involved in something, it's also really important to manage our expectations. Now everything I'm telling you is not new information. I'm just reminding you of stuff you already know, right? We need to manage our expectations, okay? Now, in the 2022 federal election, I ran as an independent candidate with my then fiance, and I was so politically naive that I thought that we could change the entire federal Parliament in one election cycle. And I promise you, I thought that. I was so passionate and I was surrounded by an echo chamber of people that were as passionate as me. And other people who had more knowledge in politics were telling me, no, Monica, it's going to take 10 years of slow and steady, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nah, you don't understand. You're not seeing what I'm seeing, you know. Australians are sick of this, you know, blah, blah. They were right. They were right. We failed miserably. Now, because my expectations were here and the results were here, I was so depressed for like 2 months. I couldn't think straight, I was eating badly, I was probably drinking too many cocktails, whatever, I don't know. I was not happy, I can tell you that much. So now, I manage my expectations based on reality. I know I'm a very positive person, but you can be a realist and positive at the same time. And what an example is, when the hate speech bill went through and I wasn't surprised, it was because a year and a half ago, the same members of Parliament voted for babies born alive on accident from abortions to be left to die alone. So how can the same people in the same position then make a good decision? They're soulless. So why would I expect anything different? And so because of that, I'm protecting myself mentally. And what I would have done 3 years ago or 4 years ago is I would have been running around like a headless chicken, campaigning and protesting against this hate speech. That would have been a waste of energy. Okay? It would have made me feel good, but it wouldn't have had an impact because it was going to go through with or without me, if you know what I mean. Now, when it comes to energy, this is the most important thing. We have so much to do in our lives, and we need to figure out how to focus our energy. So with that, there are also people who don't deserve our energy. They're unwake-upable. Some people are unwake-upable, guys. They are living in another universe, and you cannot penetrate. Now, let me give you an example. Do you remember when drag queen story times came in like a wave in New Zealand? It happened in Australia too, obviously not on accident. Anyway, the first one was in Victoria, of course, the most woke state in the country. Anyway, the whole Freedom family got together and we stopped that drag queen story time, and we were so happy with ourselves because you know why we care? Because we care about these kids. We care about these kids we don't even know. We feel like we care about them more than the parents do. Anyway, so we were happy, and it's really important to celebrate the wins because they're far and few between sometimes. So for 2 days, we were patting ourselves on the back. But I tell you what, it was hard work, okay? Whole new website, a whole new design, a whole, you know what goes into that sort of stuff. Anyway, we were happy though. 2 days later, there was 50 more all over the country. And Australia is a big country. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And when you have a platform like mine, you feel responsible to come up with ideas, you know? So for 2 days, I'm pacing the room. I went on hikes to try to connect with God, you know? What am I supposed to do? Tell me what to do. And I'm thinking about these poor kids, you know? And I got my answer. It wasn't what I expected to hear, but it's what I needed to hear. And that is, if a mother is going to bring her 2-year-old kid to see a drag queen story time, I can't help her. I can't. And I can't help the kid either. To be honest, the kid is doomed unless a miracle happens. And I'm not a miracle worker. I can be there after the miracle happens, but I can't instigate the miracle. Where do you even start with someone like that? Where would you even start? The conversation would be dead in the water instantly because there is no common ground. Like they should almost be in a psych ward. That's how far away they are from us, you know? So God told me to let them go. You can't do anything, Monica, and I don't expect you to. And I was like, oh, well, that's a relief, because I didn't know what to do. Anyway, so I put those people in the too hard basket, and I forget about them. Now, if those people are your friends and family, I'm sorry, the same rule kind of applies. You still can't wake them up right now. But you can keep them at arm's length, and you can try to keep the relationship alive so that when the miracle does happen, if it happens, then you're there, okay? And I'm really sorry, that must be difficult. I don't know what it's like. But anyway, we're forgetting about those. Now we have a bit more energy. So where does that energy go? Well, I imagine that you have like 100% energy here, right? And we're so busy, okay? This 100% energy is the only energy you have to wake people up in a day, okay? With all the other things you have to do. And there are all these people over here that are worth your time. These are your friends, your cousins. They're good people, and they show glimmers of light sometimes, and you believe that one day they're going to wake up. Those are those people, right? Now, I call them horses for the purpose of this talk, and the reason I call them that is because of the saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. So there's a big paddock here in New Zealand. It's so green and luscious. If I was ever going to be an animal, I would want to live in New Zealand. Anyway, so we're all in this paddock with our friends, and we're trying to bring them to the water, you know? And sometimes we get close, and they take a sip, and we get excited, yeah? And then they spit it out, and we're like, no, you know? Now, these horses, they've seen the light. They've seen bits of the light. But I'll tell you what happens is when you're not ready to wake up, you see a little bit, and you shut it. You see that the mind is very strong. It can unsee something if it only sees just a little bit of it. Now, do you remember being asleep? Anyone here remember being asleep? There was something restful about it. You know, like once you know, you can't unknow it, you know? And when you find out, it's a hard journey. Do you guys remember? You got to go down that rabbit hole so far, some people never come out. and they're still stuck in the rabbit hole. You know what I'm talking about, right? Now, if you manage to get out of the rabbit hole, it takes about 3 to 6 months, doesn't it? And then you crawl out all dirty because you know what the world is really about now, and you have to find a way to function in this world, wake up every day and try to survive without thinking everything's going to... It's hard. It's 3 to 6 months of depression, right? Now, do you blame your horse friends for trying to put that off? I don't. Think about it. If you love them, just let them enjoy it a little longer. You know, just let them be and save yourself a bit of energy. And the reason I say that is because it is our responsibility to wake people up. I'm not saying it's not. However, is now the right time? Maybe not. And why I think that is because everything that we think is important, they don't. They don't care about digital ID. They don't care about cashless societies. They don't care about 15-minute cities because they can't see it, they can't feel it, and they're not suffering from it. They'll say, well, they have all of our information anyway. What's the difference? I'm not saying anything that the government doesn't like, so I don't need my privacy. You've heard these things before. Under 16 social media ban. Well, under 16-year-olds shouldn't be on social media anyway. And it's like, well, yeah. So you can bang your head against the wall as much as you like, but those horses will not wake up until they're ready or until they're suffering. When they're suffering is the right time. Now, it's unfortunate, but it's how human nature works, okay? So if you've got only this amount of energy, you can wake up a horse now if you like, but it's going to take 95% of your energy to do that. But if there is another COVID-like global crisis that we're all suffering from together, you'll only need 5% of this energy to wake that horse up. And with the other 95%, you can wake up 19 more, right? So it's about working smarter, not harder. Give yourselves a break. You know, us freedom people, we feel like a burden to always try to wake someone up all the time, but you don't actually have to all the time. There is a moment that it's worth it. And let me give you some ideas on how you can talk to your horse friends when the door opens, because it will open. And if you go too hard too quickly, and if you keep sending them Telegram links and they don't even have Telegram on their phone, they will block you and they will never come to you because they'll be too embarrassed, right? So imagine you're at coffee with these people because you still have a relationship with these people, you've managed to, which is great. You're sitting at a cafe and they look up at the sky and they say, wow, the clouds look really weird today, you know. Now, what would you do? I bet you would. Wow, now that you ask, here's all these links and I've got a printout in my handbag. Wait, I'll go to the car and get you some stickers. Anyway, no, don't do that because the door opened and you smashed it closed too much too quickly, right? What if, see, we are missing a bit of strategy, us folk, aren't we? We're very passionate, but we're not very strategic sometimes. Not all of us. But anyway, how about you just sit back, put your hands in your pockets and just be like, yeah, they do look a bit weird. I wonder what that's about. You know, just pretend to be nonchalant. Like, pretend like you're on a date and you're trying not to be desperate, okay? Just like, let them go through the motions themselves, right? The other idea is, and obviously you can plant seeds, but just don't go too hard too quickly. Don't start talking about flat earth when they talk about chemtrails, okay? Anyway, the other thing is if imagine you sent a text message to one of your horse friends 3 years ago, okay, about chemtrails, okay? And now you go home and you look at your phone and they have sent you the exact same link back and they said, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Again, what you would naturally want to do, you would go back 3 years, screenshot it, send them a photo and tell them they're an idiot for being 3 years late, right? That's what you would want to do. And I understand. But how about, and I hope you have these opportunities, by the way, how about you reply to the message and you say, wow, that's so interesting. Can you send me more? Right? Play a game. You guys are thinking about people you know. Because no one likes to be told that they're stupid. No one likes to be told that they're late to the party, right? So just play dumb for a few months. Let them figure it out. Encourage them to keep researching themselves, right? then in 6 months' time, you can tell them that you played that game and you can have a good old laugh about it, you know? But if you go too hard, too fast, they will shut the door. And we've experienced that too with other people, you know? And also on that note, alright, where do I want to go now? Where do I want to go next? Okay, I want to go to the fact that the mainstream media and the social media, have you noticed, they try really, really hard to convince us that we are a minority. Yeah? I don't believe it. Because if it wasn't the case, they wouldn't be trying so hard. Someone said to me 2 events ago, if they can convince you you're alone, they've won. And they're trying, but it's failing miserably. Look at this room. Okay, we're not alone. Anyway, I find that really interesting. So when I travel, I make a point of when I'm alone, and I don't wear freedom t-shirts all the time or whatever, but I find it really interesting to talk to strangers and try to gauge where they are on politics, right? And I have a good way of doing it without being too confrontational. And I've spoken to maybe 400 individual people over the last 3 years in all different countries and settings, and no one trusts the government. No one believes the mainstream media. And I'm like, who even votes for the government? Nobody. It's just so weird to me. Now, I know when fear kicks in, people change. But right now, people are starting to open their minds and they know something is wrong, but they might not be willing to protest for it. They might not be willing to lose their job for it, but they instinctively know that something is wrong. And, you know, I went to Bali like a year ago and I was in the taxi and he started talking to me about Agenda 2030 in broken English, right? And I said to him, I was like, yeah, I know about it, but like, you probably shouldn't be talking to customers about it, you know? I don't think I said that, but I was like, why are you telling me about it? He's like, oh, what? What do you mean? Doesn't everybody know? And I'm like, no. And I was like, did you get vaccinated? And he said, no, we all got fake certificates. He said he didn't know one person that got vaccinated. And because I think third world countries maybe don't have the time luxury that we have to be brainwashed to, because they have to work every day to survive, kind of thing. But that really gave me a lot of courage that a country like that would be like that. And I believed him because the way that he was explaining it was so nonchalant, you know? The way I see it is that they're going to keep convincing us that we're alone because the mass, if we wake up to the fact that most of us are awake, then it's over, right? The way I see it is that it's like a big damn wall, right? And there's trickles of water coming through the damn wall. And one of those trickles, I don't know which one, we are all part of the trickles, okay? One of them is going to break the whole wall down, and then everyone's going to seem awake at the same time. And we're going to be like, where were you when we needed you, kind of thing? Because people are scared to speak. They're scared to lose their jobs. I spoke to someone in Invercargill at my event, and he said, Monica, I'm the only person at my job that is awake. It's so hard. I feel so alone. And I'm like, oh, so they must know that you're awake then. And he's like, well, no, because I can't talk about it. And I said, well, what if they are all doing the same thing? What if everyone's hiding from each other? And it just takes one person to say something, and then they're all just like, yeah, me too. You know, but it takes that one person. There is so much fear around being cancelled, losing your job, etc., etc. I know at some of these events, at one of these events in Christchurch, 2 people came to my event and didn't know that they were awake, and they knew each other for 10 years, right? That's crazy to us because we think that everyone like us talks all the time, but it's not true. Some people don't, right? So if you go out of the cities and you talk to people in safe environments, at caravan parks and stuff like that, I just feel like most of them are awake. I even spoke to a guy who had had 7 jabs. 7 jabs, and he was like awake. And I'm like, but why did you? Oh, well, you know, he's in a nursing home. Anyway, my point is that I think there's absolutely so many awake people out there. I don't get that many opportunities to, and the other reason I believe that is because since COVID, we were desperate for connection during COVID, right? But since then, life has not gone back to normal, but it's like continued on, right? So anyone that's woken up after the lockdowns, we don't know who they are because they didn't need to come to our groups, you know? But there is a lot of them, and when stuff hits the fan, we're gonna meet all of them, right? Now, I don't get that many chances at home to speak to asleep people because they know who I am. But I was on a plane once, and I was sitting next to a lady, and I was on the window seat. That's important for the story. So we started talking about COVID, as you naturally do when you're someone like me. Probably it was my fault. Anyway, she was from South Australia, but she was living in London at the time. and she had a partner who was really sick, had immunity problems, you know. So I decided to just sit back and listen to her, not change my face, not interrupt her, anything. I just listened because it was interesting for me. And she was so scared, the poor thing. She was like my mum's age, you know, so about 65 or something. And she was telling me that she was scared to touch the bin outside in case the bin guy touched the bin and then she touched the bin and then she killed her partner. And that was stressful for her. And I was listening to her and I felt sorry for her, you know. And I realized that everyone's COVID story is bad. It's just bad for different reasons. And we all thought we were doing the right thing, but yes, we were actually right. But anyway, that's the point. The intentions were good. She was trying to protect her partner, is my point. Anyway, I told her that I was on a book tour, but I didn't tell her much else about it. And then, is somebody here? Sounded like a doorbell. Anyway, then she asked me where I was living during COVID. And I said I was living in Victoria. And she said, oh, you're so lucky. You had Daniel Andrews to protect you. Yeah. In London, Boris Johnson was having parties and he let unvaccinated people come to my partner's house, blah, blah, blah. You're so lucky. She literally spent like 20 minutes. She spent 5 minutes praising Daniel Andrews. Anyway, after she took a breath and then she said, oh, so what's your book about? And I was like, okay, I'm on the window seat. There's an hour and a half left to go. There's no spare seats. I'm like, what do I do? Anyway, in that split moment, I decided, well, I gave her the respect of letting her speak. I didn't cut her off, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she'll do the same for me. And she did. Yep. So I started talking. She gave me 10 minutes to talk, and I told her my story non-aggressively, same tone, you know, just told her my story. And because she was like my mother's age, she was so mortified for me. She couldn't believe it. She was just like, you poor darling. She's like, you were living in communist China. And I'm like, yeah, I know, that's why we were protesting. And she's like, she didn't know that the brothels were open and the churches were closed. She didn't know that stuff. And I realized in that moment that we are living in different universes with these people. Yeah? Like, did you know that the phone and all of your algorithms, they want you to stay on your device and they don't care what you're looking at. So they keep feeding us things that affirm our beliefs. They keep feeding them things that confirm their beliefs. And we all become a little bit more extreme as time goes on and less open-minded, including people on our side. Sometimes the Daily Mail will have 2 articles on the same day and they say exactly opposite things. But someone like her will see one, I will see the other, and we will never see the other one. That is how powerful the algorithms are. She had no idea what was going on in Victoria, and she was from South Australia. When I told her, I pricked her little bubble a little bit. The next day, she bought my book online, and I don't know what happened, but my book is also non-confrontational and quite like easy for a horse person to read. So I reckon it would have done something. It would have done something. So in your own lives, when you get a chance to speak to strangers, give them 5 minutes of your time. Don't interrupt them. Don't make them feel stupid. Let them talk. Then when it's your turn to talk, if they start interrupting you straight away, then they're one of these people. Walk away. You've only wasted 5 minutes. Who cares, right? Walk away. Don't invest your time. But if they are a horse person, if you've let them speak for 5 minutes, I'm almost certain they will let you speak for at least the same amount of time. It's just like a normal, respectful exchange. And that's how. Now, I know you can't force the horse to drink the water, but you can like put salt in their food to make them drink more water, right? So the seeds in this situation is salt, okay? Now, before I get to the end part, this is all about energy and working smarter and not harder, and I want to give you guys a bit of a break. You really don't actually need to know everything. About everything, okay? You don't have to watch every video. You don't, yep, and I saw you touch your husband's shoulder there. And you know who you are. Anyway, you also don't have to pick a side on everything, right? Because they are trying so hard to get us to pick sides on things that actually have nothing to do with us and that we can't do anything about, you know? And every time you pick a side, what happens? You end up alone again, which is where we started before COVID. So they don't know how to scare us anymore because They've been trying viruses like 15 times since COVID. None of us are scared, but they're on division right now. They are on the division, really full pelt in Australia and all over the world. And they want you to pick sides on foreign wars that you have nothing to do with. And it's okay to have a preference or something, but you don't have to go out fighting for everybody in your own country. Do you know what I mean? That's happening in Australia really, really badly. And also, you would have noticed that some of the people that you love watching, some of the influencers that you love watching, they've gone really dark. They've gone really deep into particularly dark things. And the reason is human nature. They're looking for engagement, they're looking for clicks, and unfortunately, fear-based things gets clicks. It's just how humans work. Unfortunately, I wish I could change it. I don't know how. So have a look, and I don't blame those people, by the way. I hope that they fell into the trap of engagement on accident. I hope they're not doing it on purpose. But because there's so many different things to fight right now, to stay relevant, you have to go really deep down into something and dark. And, if you're watching something over the next couple of weeks, have a think. When you finish watching that particular program, how do you feel afterwards? And have a think, was it 80% fear and only 20% education? And that's not good. If it's 80% education and 20% fear, then that's okay. And you can just pause them for a little bit, and see how you feel. You're literally better off going outside, taking your shoes off on the grass, than you are watching dark, depressing, fear-based stuff that makes you not want to wake up in the morning. And you know what I'm talking about. You don't need to fall into the traps. Social media is a complete shamble of false information and lies. 70% of Twitter is robots. Now, Joe Rogan and Dr. Phil said that on Joe Rogan's show. I think they're right. Because you go on social media, on X, and you'll see all these people who say that men can have babies. It's not true. Like 0.1% of people actually truly believe that a man can have babies, and they should be in the psych ward, okay? They're not on Twitter. They're robots on Twitter trying to make you think that humanity is doomed. And it's not. And if you spend 5 hours on Twitter fighting with people, just remember, 70% likely you're fighting with robots and completely wasting your time. Yeah? It's really, really, really important. And what I've noticed as well, is talking about the online space, is that there's a lot of infighting. You would have seen that. It's happening here in New Zealand. Thankfully, I'm not involved. It's great. We've got enough problems in Australia. And I never do it, but other people do it to me. But it's fine. I don't judge them. I'll tell you why it's happening. Again, human nature. And if you have an idea of how to change human nature, please come up and tell me. But because we don't have a big global crisis anymore that we're all sharing, everyone has gone off into different directions. And if I think chemtrails are more important than fluoride, then someone who thinks fluoride is more important than chemtrails will attack me for not thinking that their problem is more important. And then we start attacking each other for the way that we try to do things. Like, you're trying to get into politics. There'll be other freedom people that say, we can't work in their system. And then, so you just have these conflicts. But I think, this is my opinion, that when stuff hits the fan again and it's really bad and we're shared in that, all of that will go away. Because my experience at the top in Victoria, there was no infighting at all. Nobody cared who was Jewish or Palestinian or Muslim or Catholic or whatever. It was us against the government. And it was beautiful. And I have faith in all of those people that I'm talking about, that they will come together and they won't care about any of that stuff when stuff hits the fan, And when I talk about stuff hits the fan, I think it is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know when. And I don't know how long and difficult it's going to be. But I really think that whatever's on the other side of that stuff hitting the fan is going to be better. That's what I think. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but also a way that I really avoid being fearful is I notice their mistakes more than their threats, okay? Because we recognize that subliminal messaging is real and that brainwashing is real, because we know it happens, we tend to feel like we are exempt from being brainwashed or scared. It's not true. We see headlines and we get scared and we don't think about the actual implementation of said thing. Let me give you an example. Well, firstly, do you remember the under 16 social media ban in Australia? Okay, so they talked about it for 3 months leading up to it. Every day they had unlimited media content. They gave jobs to tons of bureaucracies. It was great for them, And then after it went through, crickets. You know why? Because it didn't work. Okay? There were under 16-year-olds trolling Anthony Albanese, telling them they were still there. Yeah? On TikTok, I got a notification saying, you have to be over 16 to be on TikTok. Are you? Yes or no? That's all that happened. Okay? They love to tell you about the things they want to do, but they do not tell you about the things they fail to do. They're not going to tell you that the Wellington protest stopped something worse happening. They're not going to tell us that the Canberra protest stopped mandates, because it did. 2 weeks later, the mandates lifted. Okay? They're not going to do a press conference and say, well done to you, freedom fighters, you stopped us. They're not going to do that. Right? They're not going to say that Agenda 2030 is failing miserably and that they have to go to Agenda 2040. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to pretend like everything's in motion, like there's nothing you can do to stop it. They're faking it until they make it. How many viruses has there been? Recently, we had the Nipah virus, didn't we? From a bat, again, surprise, surprise. And guess what the kill rate is? 100% I saw somewhere. But 70%, 100%. Nobody cares. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to scare us. Okay, I'll tell you what scares all of us. Digital ID, digital currencies, cashless society, 15-minute city. That scares all of us, and I get it. But let's just think about it for a second. If you wanted a 15-minute city, digital ID and cashless society would have to be working perfectly before 15-minute cities could work perfectly, right? And you would need perfect reception, and you would need no natural disasters at all. And I have driven the entirety of New Zealand, and there is a lot of places without reception, okay? And there's lots of places that are immune to natural disasters, like recently, terrible things have happened. In Queensland, in Australia, we have a massive country, and there is not reception everywhere. And when there's a fire or there's a flood, you can't use a digital currency. You need cash, right? On top of that, I have faith in a little bit of humanity, and I think that these guys who spend, or girls, who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their fishing gears and their boats and their, they've got cabins in the woods and that's their life. They go have fires and camping and all that sort of stuff, and they've spent a lot of money on it. Do you think they're just going to drive their $500,000 boat into a 15-minute city and go, yeah, I'll grab a barcode on my hand and stay here the rest of my life? I don't think it's going to be that easy. No. But they want us to think that it's going to, they make it sound like it's easy, but it's not. They're going to need full compliance, and the software and the implementation of that is so hard. It is really easy to legislate bad legislation in a corrupt government, but implementing it and getting full complying from the people is a totally, no, that was not an English word, is a totally different thing. So I just want to remind you to notice their mistakes instead of their threats. And when you see a threat, think about the actual implementation. There are dozens of bills that get passed every year in Parliament that don't get used because they just need jobs, So don't let them scare you, is my point. Now, I've met 7,800 of you, and I know that online it sometimes can look like the freedom movement has gone a bit crazy. Sometimes they'll pick a crazy person from our movement and they'll just splash it all over the internet, So in Victoria, there was a guy called Desi Freeman who apparently killed two cops, and the headlines were anti-vaxxer Desi Freeman kills police, or freedom fighter Desi Freeman kills police, as if him being an anti-vaxxer is why he's a murderer, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I just want to give you a heads up that I've met so many of you, and you're all so nice and normal, and I mean, there might be a crazy person in here, but hey, there's crazy people in every group, right? I'm being funny. But my point is that if you ever feel like you don't belong, I just want you to remember that I've met the most of you, and I know that you do, and don't let anyone tell you differently, okay? Now, I'm going to show you what I have here, and then I'm going to close things up, and then my mum speaks for 15 minutes, so I'm sorry. But luckily the chairs are really comfortable, and you're still awake. She was worried. I thought she's got this comfortable spot here. The way I do things is I don't take donations, I don't sell tickets, I don't charge to talk or anything like that. I sell things. If you don't want anything, then it's free. If you want to support me, buy something, but only if you want it. It's a much better exchange of energy because I don't feel indebted to you for taking money for nothing. So it works really well for me. Anyway, this is $35, and obviously it's about prison, but it's about a lot more than that. I talk about my life, which is more colourful than prison. I guess it was preparing me for this. And my ideal audience is actually teenage girls. Obviously, everyone can read it, but if you have a teenage girl in your life, it would be good to even pay her to read this book. I promise you. It really is for them. And all teenage boys, all parents, or everyone. But the point is, if you have a teenage girl in your life and you think that she would read this, but you can't afford $35, then I'm giving you my blessing to steal a book, and I'll tell you how to do it, okay? That's how much I want teenage girls to read this. And obviously you can share it around. Now, how you steal it is, we have a New Zealand bank account number, but it's like an online bank account number. So if you go to pay, it's going to say, we can't match the name, but just press continue, because we have a lot of products here and you probably didn't bring that much cash. So you can take whatever you want and you can pay in front of us, or you can pay tomorrow. We'll write it all down, right? So what you do if you want to steal a book is you say you're going to pay tomorrow and you never pay, and we'll never know the difference, okay? But if you can afford it, don't steal it, okay? We have an audio book for only $10, so you can have that. It's not on Amazon, it's just on like YouTube, because Amazon steals. They're just like thieves. Anyway, now, do you guys know what this is? Yeah, it's called a Faraday bag. So if you put your phone in the silver section, it cuts off all the reception instantly. So the GPS, they can't track you, they can't listen to you, etc. So if you are having meetings about overthrowing the government, you should put your phone in here. And if you are, let me know. Sounds interesting. The other way you can use these is if you have a newer car that like you start the car without the actual key, so it's a keyless entry. You should put them in this every night, because there's gadgets you can get that people can break into your car from outside just because that's near the door. It has happened to people I know. So put your keys in here every night. And the other thing is, credit cards, when you're traveling, they can't be scanned when they're inside this. And homeopathic medication can go in here too. Now we have hundreds left, and we have 3 events left. So it's 1 for 30, 2 for 50, 3 for 60, and every single one after that is $10. So grab as many as you want for presents, so $10 each after that. So grab as many as you want, because we want to get rid of them, okay? These are, or we can take them home too, it's fine. These are big versions of the Faraday bags, and you can put your laptops in here. But also, if you're having a big family dinner, you can go around the table and get everyone's phones and then shut it up, and no one's going to get any notifications. So it's going to be really, really nice. Yeah, because you roll it up here. And if you have a smart meter at home, especially if it's in your bedroom or the lounge room, if you put this on the wall on the other side where it is, it actually stops the radiation from coming through. And a lot of people have something for that on the other side, outside, but that's stopping the radiation from going outside. That's not stopping it going into your house. So this is $55, and then you just put a picture over it and no one will know. It is the cheapest way to help you against radiation for your from your smart meter. Now, I have some free things to give away, which is a lovely ending for me. I've got these freedom stickers. You can put them on your car, okay? They're outdoors, they last a long time. I chose this word because actually every human being wants freedom. They just don't know what it looks like, some of them. And it's not a brand, it's not a company, it's not a logo, it's not a party. It's just a word, and it's a nice word. Put it on your car. Now, if you're going to use them, take them. If you're not going to use them, don't take them, because I had to pay for them, okay? But if you've got friends who will use them, take them. They are free, okay? And the last thing is, and these are little armbands, and they're cheaper than the stickers, so take not as many as you want, but take a few if you know you can give them out, okay? Now, I talk about subliminal messaging and fear a lot, right? But you know that we can actually do subliminal messaging in the opposite to ourselves. We forget that, but we all do know that we do become what we think, correct? So this armband says, "We are ready." And that's the name of my tour. And people say, "Well, what are you ready for?" And I'm like, "Well, tell me what it is, and I'll tell you I'm ready for it." I don't actually need to wear this anymore, because it's already done its job on me, right? But you don't have to wear it either, because it might not match your bangles or whatever. All you need to do is put it on the fridge, put it on the mirror, and even if you crunch it up and it's in the center console of your car in the cup holder, it doesn't matter. Every time your brain sees this, it will remember what it says. And in 3 months, you will wake up and you will feel as positive as me, and you won't know why, and it might be because of this, right? Now, I know it's a gimmick, but I actually do believe that we are ready, okay? At least can we agree that we are more ready than we were before COVID? And we survived that, most of us, and we've got more friends than we've ever had. We found a voice that we never knew we had. Some of us were conspiracy theorists before COVID and we had no friends, and now we have so many friends, you know? Yeah. So, even if you don't feel ready, just pretend that you are for 3 months, and then you will feel ready. Because once they convince you there's no hope, then there is no hope. You know what I mean? So, it's an easier way to live. And that's why I'm so positive. I've given away maybe 20 to 25,000 of these all over the world. I know it's not a lot, but you know, little things start somewhere, right? So take these, put them somewhere noticeable, and I truly do believe that we are ready, and I believe that because I've met the most of you that anyone else has, so you're just going to have to believe me, all right? So we are ready. That is the end of my talk. So my mum just talks for 15 minutes and then we can eat because I can smell the food too.
Sounds good.
Good evening. I feel so blessed and fortunate that I get to stand in front of a room full of people who have trusted their instincts and have held on to their common sense and then had the courage to stand on your truth. So good on you. And I'm standing here on a truth that I'm passionate about, because I feel that they're hiding the truth about just how impactful and dangerous electromagnetic radiation is. And it's increasing, it's becoming more and more of a concern. So way back when they had the first hydroelectric plant in Niagara Falls being built, Tesla suddenly woke up and he realized, I didn't consider what the impact is going to be on the human body's electrical system. And, you know, since then we've had radio waves, and during World War II they got radio sickness from carrying the radios, right? Then we've had microwaves, and we're right up to 5G. We have shedding, we have geoelectric ground current. It's an absolute electro fog, right? And I know some of you, being open-minded and with it, you've done some research on radiation, and you've probably bought a number of products. But I'm hoping I say a few things to remind you, or something you didn't know about. So the principle is that our bodies are negatively charged, and almost every single electrical appliance out there is positively charged. So it makes sense that it's going to impact on our different systems, right? And the thing is, this is a very inconvenient truth, because we like our conveniences and we don't want to think that they might be harming us, and especially the young people. Try getting them to accept that it might be harming them if they continually use their phones 24/7 and sleep with it by their bed, etc., right? Now, they're not feeling it yet. Their immune system is strong and they're young, but it is cumulative and it will catch up with them. And, you know, the symptoms are really so synonymous with different other diseases that it's really hard to pick it up. It can be things like vertigo, dizziness, anxiety, heart palpitations. It leads to cancer, all of these things. You go to the doctor, he's going to give you tablets for your heart and depression pills, right? He's not going to say, have you considered how much radiation that you're exposed to, because these are symptoms of that. No. And, you know, you look at people who work in an office building, for instance, right? And all day, they're completely surrounded by screens and other people's mobile phones and modems, and, you know, and they start having to need 3 coffees a day to get through. They get a headache once or twice a week. They get, you know, brain fog, and by the end of the day, they're exhausted. But they'll say, oh, that's work. They go home, they unwind, they feel fine. And they don't have the knowledge to even consider and connect the dots that their work environment might make them less than. And, you know, it's so easy to accept a new norm. You know, it's slow. And you think, oh yeah, so I'm getting older, you know, what do you expect? Now, let me, you know, I can talk till the birds fly over, and I might not convince you because it's in the air and you can't see it. I have 2 things tonight that will help you have a visual on that. One is I want to show you what healthy blood looks like. Nice round cells. They're going to carry oxygen throughout your body, to your brain, okay? And they'll absorb the nutrients, and they'll keep you healthy. Now, I got myself radiated 51%. I wanted to see what it did to my blood. All right? So here you've got the blood cells are stacking, all right? And look, this happens to so many of us that if you were to have a live blood analysis, each and every one of you would likely have some form of blood stacking, all right? Because it's caused by radiation, but also stress and, an infection and things like that. But the radiation is really quite impactful. And this is what 94% radiation looks like, all right? This is what you call sticky blood, very slow through your system, very little oxygen going there. So that's why, dizziness and foggy brain, are very, very common symptoms, okay? Now, that's my blood, and I have electromagnetic hypersensitivity, and it happened because we lived in a sick house for 20 years, and it was that slow boil, until it got to the point where we absolutely had to leave our home, and it was 10 acres, nicely prepped. It broke our heart. So we moved somewhere else, and by the time we moved, I was so sick that there were only 2 rooms in that new house that I could even live in. No one could enter the room with a mobile phone, and I just couldn't leave. And I couldn't go to the library to even research what is this about. I couldn't Google. Eventually I found a way I had to order some books and find out, and then I needed some products to help me navigate through all this, right? So I had a sleeping bag with silver lining, so I put that over me, and it had a fly screen in the front, and then I got a glove made, and I was able to order products and books. I'm very fortunate that I am a kinesiologist, so I can test the products when they come to see how much they're going to protect me, right? And these came from like America and the UK, because 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have many products in Australia. And I was really disappointed. I was paying good money for these things, and they were only protecting me like 40, 60%. I couldn't get over 80% on anything. So I often had to go, if I had to go out like to the doctors or to mass, I would wear this bloomin' bee suit, they called it. My kids didn't want to know me. Monica traveled on an airplane with me looking like that. I looked like a white Muslim, but I was desperate. I didn't know what to do, right? And so eventually I started having some successes with products, okay? So I wanted to be able to use my phone to research. So I finally, after buying maybe 8 different ones, sometimes I paid $100, thinking if I paid a lot of money, it would work really well. Nothing was able to protect my phone more than 61%. So I had to not touch the phone. On the table, I would use one of those stylus pens with the rubber end, and then I would use special EMF headphones. So I'll show that to you in a minute. So, but wow, when I came across this, it's called Radish Shield, and the package says that it protects 99.95% from radiation, and even reduces the heat on your phone by 80%. And it was only $20, and I thought, this can't be. But anyway, I tested it, and it worked, and I could actually pick up my phone. Now, this protects you 1 meter around. When I see a mother with a baby on her lap and she's on her phone, she doesn't know. If she did, she would do something, right? But that baby is being impacted. Children's brains are developing, and they have thinner skulls. They have more water on the brain, and so they're actually absorbing more radiation than we are. So, we decided to encourage people to buy. If you buy 5, we'll give you 1 free. Because honestly, everybody you know and love should have one of these on their phone. And laptops and these pads and baby monitors. And if anyone in this room knows that they have radiation sensitivity, This has been my lifesaver because I couldn't be in a room with an air split system. It would make me sick. So I tried this and all of a sudden, so then I put on my blow dryer and oh, I can use it, my vacuum, everything, so it's everywhere. But it's very handy. A little tip, don't take the back sticker off. It'll last you from phone to phone, and then you just slip it between the phone and the cover, and the flat part goes against your phone. Now, you know what? This has become even more important as of recently. I just learned something astounding. Before COVID broke out, they already had the LED lights on the street lamps, and they are designed to give you a zap every time you walk by. Not only surveillance, but a really big zap of EMR. If you have this on your, and it's to your phone, okay? It connects with your phone and it sends a really huge surge. And unfortunately, people who are vaxxed, they feel it quite a bit, you know, and it breaks my heart. And so if you have this on your phone, you avoid that, okay?
So how does it work?
It has and it says it on the little pamphlet. It tells you it's crushed combination of certain minerals that will neutralize the positive frequency coming to the phone. So by the time it comes to you, it is perfectly neutral. And I know because there's no way I could use my phone without that. Until I had that, I couldn't use my phone in my hand. Okay, so I'm always reminded of that. Now, so this is what I used as well. Now, at that time, nothing in Australia. Ordered it from America. It was $150 US. And now we found some for $80. And the reason it works is because there's an air tube. So that elongates the distance from your phone to you. And so it slows down the EMF. And then there's copper wiring in that. So that by the time it gets to your ear, it is 100% safe. And, you know, again, you know, all those teenagers that are constantly wired up and it's going straight to their brain, you know, when you understand that, you know, so best birthday present for your teenagers. And there are some little, some phones don't have the little round port, so we have these available for both types of phones so that you can use it, okay? Now, I had to then look at how can I protect my body so that when I go out, I don't get the hits, okay? So, because when my blood is the way I showed you at 94%, I was useless. First of all, my body was so radiated that all the liquids and food in my body had to get out, every drop. And then I had to go to bed. And I was there for 8 to 12 hours. That's how long it took the blood to naturally get rid of all that inflammation. So you can imagine I wanted to do everything I could to avoid going through that, okay? So it was about protection. And again, I looked at so many different things, and it was getting so confusing. And they still weren't more than 61%. So then I thought, well, maybe if I pay more money. So I bought one for $500. And it was only 80%, which is better than the other ones, but it was really hard, heavy and clunky, and then I lost it. So I was back to square one. Now, there was a company in Australia that was starting to get my attention because this man had been a building biologist for 30 years. He'd go in and tell you if your house is sick, what it needed for you to be able to live in it. But unfortunately, and this is what happened to us, the bill is horrendous. We were told $10,000 will fix it so that you can still live in your house. And a lot of people said, we can't afford that. So they'd have to move or, you know, they couldn't do it. So he gave that up because he had an idea by then how he could develop products that were really effective and really reasonable for people to buy. And so OregonEffects.com, I went back to them and I said, I just need something stronger than what I've been using for my body. And yours only, his pendant was only 61% as well. And he said, well, you've called me at the right time. I've just done something and I brought that up to 100%. And what happened was, because of COVID, he had people coming to deliver and they were making his staff sick because they were shedding on them. And he wanted to protect them. So he worked out the counter frequency of shedding. and he was able to infuse it in his product, this one here. Well, he only did this one, and I said, Jared, forget it. I want you to put it on everything. And also, he noticed that a lot of people were having Epstein-Barr virus flare-ups. Has anyone heard about that? Epstein-Barr? Yeah, okay. So when I researched that, it was in our polio vaccine. And it's dormant in most people, but when there is a high stress, then that gets activated. So COVID was that. And a lot of people develop Epstein-Barr virus, and it's like chronic fatigue, like glandular fever, right? Those symptoms. So a lot of people are suffering and they don't even know it because they go to the doctor and the doctors aren't really trained, and they don't even have a solution. You have to go to a naturopath. They're really up on it now. They have remedies, drops that you can take, and they have like biocom machines that are frequency, and they can help to get rid of that for you. But anyway, that is independent in all the products as well. So that's really good for me because you can get reinfected when you get rid of it, and this always protects me, and I don't, okay? Now, here's my visual. I can show you how this works. What it does then is it neutralizes, like I said, the incoming positive frequency in our biospheres of our body. And I would like to have a volunteer, and I'm just wondering, because you're nice and close by, would you be comfortable to come up for 30 minutes? Yeah?
30 minutes? No, seconds.
Yeah.
Josh, no, stop.
Okay, there we go. You hold that. If you stand here and face the audience, all right. Now, this is what you call a biotensor. All right, it looks voodoo, wispy, magic stuff. It isn't, okay? It is a scientific tool. It was developed by a German scientist. He wanted to test the tension in biofields of different things, but especially the body, okay? So we have different systems. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to bounce it up and down, all right? And that's showing that it's balanced, it's happy. And then I'll bring it in towards her stomach meridian, and if it keeps bouncing up and down, then that means that she's not impacted by radiation in her stomach.
That's good.
All right, so now I will do her heart. Now, this has gone wonky, can you see that? Okay, and I haven't changed, it's done that of its own accord. All right, so it's going wonky, and so Monica, do you want to give her the pendant? Okay, so here's the heart. Now this protects 8 meters around her body.
So basically,
okay?
if it goes wonky, it's bad. If it goes straight, it's good.
It's balanced. Yeah.
So now, give it back.
Oh.
But
And
that's
it.
really unusual to have anything balanced, by the way.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah. Well done. Thank you. Okay. Now again, these products are really reasonable. $70 for a pendant. Or if you prefer to wear a bracelet, ladies, we have quite a few to choose from, different sizes. And you're in for a treat today because we're discounting these ones here that are really pretty. They used to be $135, and we've got them down to $95 because we just need to get rid of them. And some people prefer bracelets, okay? But they all work. We even have men's bracelets as well. All right, now, where else do we spend a lot of time? Our home, okay? So I had to find a way to make my home safe so I could use more of the rooms. And again, we tried 4 different systems. The last one was $1,700. When 5G came out, it couldn't cope. So I went back to Oregon and I said, Jared, I'm having a hard time to believe that this can possibly work, okay? Only $220 and it just looks like a piece of plastic, you know. And so he sent me one, tried out. Within 5 minutes, I could feel the harmony in the home, and then I muscle tested it, and that's how you test these products, biotensor or muscle testing, because they're very unique. And so you plug it into one outlet of your home, and it goes through it connects with your electrical system and goes through the entire house, and it harmonizes, neutralizes over 30 different noxious sources of frequency in your home. And it actually exudes outside, it attracts birds, the dogs and cats love it. Now, I love it because anyone with solar, they tend to have problems with dirty electricity, so this cancels that out. Also for a power surge, or if your house is not properly grounded, okay? Now, I talked about the street lights. There's something called geoelectric ground current that many people don't know about. When you order on a shop, we send information about that because we need to know. What we didn't expect to happen is those transformers on the top of the street light are actually traveling down the post and into the ground. And then they're forming a network with the other post and the other post, and they're getting stronger, and they're starting to crawl underneath homes, schools. We've found in schools and libraries. It's really, really sad. But one of these did an entire school, just one. If you plug one of these in a 5-story apartment building, everybody benefits. They really are quite amazing. All right, now, I have a travel version of that. This is my best friend because it's portable. So it's like that, except not doing dirty electricity, but it does the same thing. It does the room, okay? So when I travel in an airplane, which used to always really get to me, I take this now. I put it on the floor, and the whole plane is balanced. When I go to a cafe, I put it on the table. I go to a friend's house. Hers might not be safe. I put it there, right? So it's very versatile. And for people like me, if any of you are like that, always keep it with you, because there are times when we get zapped. Like some of the malls are just way too much for anything, right? So I need help. So putting the back of this against you in the pocket, or we ladies have a little convenient pocket here, and that's what I do. And within 5 minutes, I feel really good. Quick story. One lady looked at that, and when she received it in the mail, she thought, I got scammed, you know? So she phoned us up, wants her money back. Sure. Then that day, her friend, who's actually sensitive to radiation, happened to come for a cup of tea, and she told her about it, and her friend said, can I have a hold of that? And after about 10 minutes, her friend said, that I was not feeling well when I came here, and that has completely settled me down. I'm going to get one, you know? All right, now, I'm almost finished. Where else do we spend a lot of time, and our children? In the car. Did you know that the car is like a Faraday cage? It completely amplifies everything that's in there. We have newer cars now with so many computerized things, right? Electric cars, hybrid cars are deadly for people like me. And there's a simple solution. This is called a car harmonizer, and you have 2 options, and you plug it into the USB port, okay? Or if you have an older car, you know, you can use the cigarette lighter and put it in there, all right? Now, our last shipment came without the pamphlet. I'm going to quickly share with you what you need to know about it, and then we'll close down soon. All right. It works by emitting a negative charge that balances the positive charge of all noxious energies in your car that surround all occupants, be it from the electrical system, fuel tanks, exhaust pipes, and even outside influences such as that ground current I was talking to you about. It reduces driver fatigue and car sickness, improves concentration, and provides a harmonious and energetic traveling environment. It's just really beautiful. I'm finished with that. I'm going to end by sharing something with you because I care. Because it's something that you are not likely to ever hear about, but it is actually impacting on 20 to 40% of you in this room. Because we lived in a sick house, I never wanted to do that again. So I took the building biology course, and we were trained to immediately go to the bed where the person spends 8 hours a night, okay? Now, unfortunately, people don't know that there are noxious frequency from the ground. And they unfortunately have put their bed in a bad spot. And that's what I'm going to talk about. What are they? 1, underground streams. Now, in New Zealand, I've come across this so much. You know, you've got a lot of water, okay? Or like a black hole. Now, the reason that is so bad is because there are different minerals in the water, and water is a conductor, and they clash. And then they keep sending off this charge, and that goes underneath your house and under your bed and onto your body, where you stay very still most of the time for 8 hours, right? So what does that do? That really wears down your immune system. It has to work all night to fight the inflammation that it's causing in your blood. Also, your nervous system doesn't get to relax. So the rejuvenation and the restoration isn't happening the way it should. So if you're waking up not feeling refreshed, you might think about that as a possibility. There's another one that is most common, and it's called geopathic stress lines, and they are every 4 meters, and they're like a grid across the earth, okay? Now, if you're sleeping on one of those, be it from head to foot or across your bed, that is enough to really impact on your health, okay? Now, there's a worse one. There are Curry lines that run 45-degree angles, and if one of the Curry lines goes over a Hartman line under where you are sleeping, and I do come across them almost every event, you will develop a serious illness. And doesn't matter how much money you spend on your health, how many times you go to a health retreat, you will never be well. I learned that the hard way. Okay, so now if you are suspecting that, if you are comfortable with my testing you with the biotensor or the kinesiology, I'm very happy to make myself available after. I usually help John for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you can line up, and I'm happy to do that for you because I have a solution. I would never tell you this unless I did. And it's quick, easy, and cheap. I've discovered that cork, C-O-R-K, tiles, are the best conductor. They block all of that noxious energy. And all you have to do is put it under your bed. And you can get a handyman or your husband to cut a piece of plywood for each half of the bed, and then you glue these tiles on very, very close together, and you just slide that under the bed. And I priced the tiles at Bunnings. Here they are 9 tiles for $37, so you might need 2 or 3. But Bob's your uncle. You will really find such a difference. I'm getting text messages all around the country now. Thank you, we're sleeping so much better. So I wish that for all of you. I wish you all a good life, and thank you so much for your attention.